Very good morning, friends. Today we are delivering this lecture for the mean of BSc SY student, and paper what we are studying since 2 weeks, that is plant physiology. As we know the physiology of the plants, as well as we see in plant physiology or in animal physiology. Physiology are the internal processes conducted by the body or the plants. In that, as we are concerned with the botany, we are studying the plant physiology. Well, in that we have gone through the plant and the water relation, the mechanism of the water, of its movement from the ground parts of the plants upwards towards the aerial parts. Well, in that we see the term diffusion, osmosis, imbibition, and so on. As we are aware that the soil water contained has a high concentration of ionic compound, or is called as a molecule. And what happens in the diffusion, water diffusion, the water is transfer or transport from the higher concentration of a molecule towards the lower concentration, whereas there are the pathways of a water transport. There are two pathways, and these two pathways have a different mechanism, different process, or different path to move water from cell to cell, that is from the cytoplasmic water content is transferred through plasmodesmata in the adjacent cell, and the next one, and the second one, that is the pathway is carried out through the cell wall. So this was what regarding, or the theme what we have learned till now. Transpiration pool theory, that is ascent of sap. What is the sap? Sap is the minerals as well as the water molecules combinedly pass through this pathway to the each and every part or tissue of a plant. Now the next process in the term we study in the physiology, that is photosynthesis, then respiration, then many more things. As we respire as a human being, what is our mechanism of respiration? We inhale the oxygen and exhale the carbon dioxide. Well, now what is the mechanism of the plant in the case of the respiration? Whatever the excess amount of water is held in the plant, and that excess amount of water is to be loose to balance the things, and this Water loss is in the form of vapor is released in the atmosphere via aerial parts of the plant. Well, I repeat, the loss of a water in the form of a vapor from a living tissue of aerial parts of the plant and is known as the transpiration. When transpiration rate is high, loss of water is also high in the plants. Almost 98 or 99% of water is absorbed by a plant, and this is lost in transpiration process. Absorption of water mechanisms. Now, in case of transpiration, we may also call it as release of water molecules or water of a plants. Now, what is revealed that about 10% of the moisture found in the atmosphere is released by the plant through the transpiration, and the remaining, that is the 90%, is mainly supplied by evaporation from oceans, seas, lakes, rivers, stream, etc. Well, by studying the model of the transpiration of the plants, what we see, look out at this figure, when we move from downwards to the upwards, observe the underground part, that is the root, takes more amount of water via the root hairs and roots. This roots or this absorbed water is moved upwards towards the aerial parts, whereas in this diagram you can observe the these arrows which are shown as a shown in a path of a water molecule movement. See, these are the arrows. I am putting out the dot on just the arrows, that you can see how these arrows are water molecules is moving towards the stem with the help of the xylem and phloem. Whereas water pulled up through the xylem. See, look out at this diagram. I am zooming out this. This is the xylem, which are the what we can say that they are present in the vertical tubes or vesicles, like water pulled up through the xylem. See, this is the xylem structure here, which we can look out, and this is passed through the leaves and through the stem. Water replaced from inner cells. Now, this water is replaced by the inner cells. It might be replaced by the cytoplasmic content or might be cell wall. Whereas water leaves through stoma and evaporate. See, this is the stomata of the leaves, which is the epidermal part of the plant, and the water contained is released or evaporate from the leaves. Whereas transpiration is the process by which the water that is absorbed by plants through root is evaporated into the atmosphere from internal tissue of living plants through the aerial parts such as leaves, green shoots, etc. Whereas converted from a liquid form into a gaseous form in the presence of sunlight. Look out at this chart. What we see here, there are three types of transpiration, and the percentage of each transpiration is represented over here. Well, on the very first, that is shown in the blue structure square, stomatal transpiration, it takes 98% of a whole transpiration process of water loss, whereas cuticular transpiration via stomata, that is 3 to 10%. And what about the lenticular, that are the glandular hairs present on the stomata and the leaves, transpiration, that is zero point 0.1, very minute one. But the major part or the more part is taken by the stomata. Next to the stomata, cuticular layer are observed. Later on, lenticular take also part in the transpiration, but its shares is very minute. Whereas when we look out at the stomatal transpiration, we come to know that it constitutes 97% of the transpiration all above the organs or tissues. It is the loss of water through special apertures which are present in leaves, and that is called as stomata. Few stomata are found on green stem, also flowers and fruits also. Stomata expose the wet anterior part of plant to the atmosphere. Water vapor therefore pass outwardly through stomata by the process of diffusion. What happen regarding the water vapor? It pass outwardly through stomata by the diffusion process. Stomatal transpiration continues till the stomata are open. Look out at this diagram, mechanism of stomatal transpiration. Vertical or transverse section of a typical dicot leaf is shown here. The arrows show the movement of air. Well, I zoom out this figure that you may understand the rest of the things. See, look out at this arrow. This arrow are showing the movement of air. These are the air space. The cells which is somewhat elongated, and the micro black dots are seen to be nuclei, that is the spongy parenchyma, and the very upper layer, that is the cuticular layer with just beneath to the upper epidermis. Then you see the palisade cells which are elongated, tapering at one end and just adjacent to each other. Next to that, you see the xylem in a circular form covered by the phloem. That is, the phloem are also seen in the four-headed cells, but this xylem is the hexagonal cells which are seen over here. So this is what the uh, you can look out at this mesophil chloroplast. See, the carbon dioxide is taken inside and the water molecule is released, that is with the oxygen. Boundary layer, cuticular epidermis and cavity, all these things are shown over this year. So friends, well, for today we see only the definition of the transpiration and the mechanism of the transpiration by which tissue and the is done, what amount of transpiration is stomata takes place, as well as the rest of the two glandular hairs and the rest part. So with today we see these things and the few things regarding this transpiration of the cuticular transpiration and many more will be looking out in our next video, next lecture. Till then, thank you.